On the show tonight, we've plenty of Irish football chat. Stephen Kenny's going to be chatting about the 21s playing Armenia on Friday. Louise Quinn's going to reflect on the new boss for the ladies team, also the win over Montenegro last night. We also have Brian O'Driscoll chatting about Toner and everything else. Joe Schmidt ahead of the Wales game at the weekend. We're going to have Tim Vickery and Rafa Honigstein as well on for the football show. But before all of that, how are we, lads?
All good, Johnny.
A bit of an Ulster domination in studio tonight.
Special tonight, yeah. Big time. Joe and Nathan, sports broadcasters of the year nominees, they're going to be tested tonight, I think.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Would they get nervous tonight?
If I was sitting opposite Gary Neville and Roy Keane together, I think there'd be a couple of nerves.
I think it's worn off a bit. I think people have seen through the Roy Keane thing. It's a bit of a shtick at this stage. Like he plays it up. It can be a pantomime villain at times.
Let's be honest. So if you were presenting that tonight and you started off with a wobble, the equivalent of like a misplaced pass, and he gave you the stare, I don't know if I'd react that well. I think I'd be on
about the stare, and he going.
The first question or two are very important. Like what's the first question?
Like Joe and Nathan are grown.
How are you getting on?
Are they going to be intimidated by stare? Like they're not.
Oh, yes.
They're not a primary school anymore.
Yes.
Well, maybe Nathan, but Joe won't.
I think Joe will be more intimidated. Nathan's from Mayo. He's he's had to deal with a lot of hardship.
And Kildare,
it's kind of the more the night has gone on, the more I've kind of wished to be there, and it's sold out so quickly. It's a great charity as well, and I think there'll be a lot of kind of sound bites coming out of it that are going to make very engaging radio at the very least.
I went to one a few years ago that was a fundraiser for Rockmount, Roy's old club in Cork, and it was Nicky Butt and Roy, and it was brilliant. Like the stories were amazing. Like some of them you've heard, he's probably repeated them since, but like Kenny Dalglish, the one about Kenny Dalglish is great when he was supposed to join Blackburn. Do you know that story?
Do tell us.
Yeah, but he'd agreed. Blackburn obviously were the Manchester City of the time. Like they didn't have that kind of funding, but they were the club throwing the money around, and they'd gone to Forest. He'd been Forest's best player, and they'd been relegated.
Brian Clough had punched him.
Yeah, everybody knew he was leaving at the end of the season, and the battle was between United and Blackburn. But he'd agreed on the phone on the Friday with Kenny Dalglish that he was joining Blackburn, and they left it at that. And he said, "Okay, come in on Monday. We sign the forms because the office will be closed for the weekend." And Alex Ferguson rang him and said, "Come for a game of snooker." And or I can't remember, did he go for a game of snooker in Alex Ferguson's house or in Roy Keane's house? But they had a game of snooker, and he talked him around over the game of snooker, and. So he rang Kenny to tell him this, and he says, "You give me your word." And he says, "Yeah, but I've changed my mind." And he says, "Nobody goes back on their word to Kenny Dalglish. So I will get you." So he just said, "Well, I just said I don't care." So
you'd of course be fully aware of how a game of snooker can change you as a person. You're a big fan of the.
This is Ken Doherty's heyday, the early to mid 90s. I know 97 he won the world title, but. Yeah, over a game of snooker.
Well, I think we can safely say Blackburn's kind of decline would have certainly been halted if Roy Keane. I think he was he 3.6 million?
3.5, I think, or 3.75.
In those days,
it was a British record for transfer fee at the time. Yeah,
he's
it's probably the last time an Irish player's gone for a record fee. I would think.
Yeah, maybe the last time ever. Although we will talk to Stephen Kenny about Troy Parrott without trying to big him up too much, but he might have that all-star quality. The Roy Keane and Gary Neville Premier League Roadshow, which goes on at the moment at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre, is in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Premier League. But in fairness to Keane, whatever about his managerial career, which started off well and kind of has tapered off a bit, he was a great example of the fact that size didn't really matter as much because he was an absolute midfield general. I can't remember players in the mould, or certainly many, that could literally run a game, and he wasn't technically outrageously good, but he could dictate the tempo of a game, and I don't know if we actually appreciate just how good he was. I think a lot of people don't actually.
I think we do. I think
maybe in Ireland we do. I don't know if they do in England.
No, I think because I see the best. You see people picking their best team of the Premier League all the time on Sky, and he's very rarely in it. Like the people have Gerrard or Lampard or Scholes in ahead of him, which is mad. Or Vieira. I would have him in as the preeminent midfielder of the Premier League era. Like because I think I covered virtually all the competitive games he played for Ireland, and he was. Actually, at the start of his career, or there was a period he wasn't that great. Like at the start, he was very good, and then he kind of dipped. But then he became really strong for near the end of mixed tenure. And he was majestic. Like he did control games. And he dragged others through them. Like I've never seen any other Irish player do that. Like even Liam Brady back in the day was a very different kind of player, but he physically, like, it sounds like a mad one, but like away to Cyprus, they won 4-0, so you think it was a breeze, but only for Roy Keane they would have drawn that game. He really dragged them, pulled them through.
I think my favourite memory was we were playing Yugoslavia, which I think it was actually called at that time, away from home, completely outplayed, and he was just head and shoulders above it. Like his first half that night in Belgrade, the way that he would just, when everyone around him was basically inferior, Keane was able to, and it's actually, we were talking about Kevin Walsh last night, and Kevin Walsh is an amazing footballer, and his managerial legacy is a little bit more checkered, we'll say, even though I think he's done a decent job, but I don't want Roy Keane's time to remember by what's happened subsequent to his career, because as a player he was something else.
So Steve Staunton is the example.
Exactly.
What a player for Ireland and Liverpool, and then we kind of look at his managerial career and it taints it a little bit maybe for some people, but Keane, you hope he doesn't head that direction.
No, I don't think that'll happen, because you do look at, everybody from Bobby Charlton to Kevin Keegan and, Ruth Hullett. Like, a lot of them went into management, and Keegan did a bit more than the rest, but you still remember Ruth Hullett as one of the greats, even though he was a pretty crappy manager. So I don't think people will look back.
Dropped Alan Shearer.
Yeah, and we didn't get into the Twitter spat with him.
What did you make of that, actually? I've only looked at the headline and I was pretty bored. Owen and Shearer, what's been going on?
Mental, very public. Now look, Owen has a book coming out tomorrow, so
great.
It's good timing for him.
It is,
and very suspicious as well.
But they had a fall. Apparently, they were really close friends. They had the same agent, but they had some major falling out. I'm not sure what is rooted in, but he was doing some interview to promote the book, Owen, and he mentioned the last 6 or 7 years of his career, he was basically going through the motions, and he kind of fallen out of love. He's talked about this before. I think he talked about it with Joe in here one day. And
big love of horses, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shearer does as well, I think, doesn't he? But Owen to the extreme. But Shearer picked up on this, and because obviously they were teammates at Newcastle, and he's saying going through the motion, didn't want to be there, and he was saying, yeah, we all noticed that, getting 120 grand a week for this, so he sniped back and said, well, I know that you wanted to go to Liverpool, like you talk about your loyalty to Newcastle, you were in the brink of going to Liverpool at that time.
I'm with Shearer on this, though. Like, I remember, and Graham Souness needed Owen at that time, Souness under his own pressure. If you are getting paid 120 grand a week, we're going to talk later on in the football show about, the demands on players nowadays, but it wasn't so much in those days. It doesn't matter, if you're being paid that amount of money, at least show up and do your job.
Yeah.
And if your love is gone for the game, well, then move on. Don't be accepting 120 grand a week. And I think there are a lot of charlatans at the top level of football who are going through the motions.
But at the same time, if you're in that position and somebody's offering you that kind of money, where else are you going to get that kind of money? Like, he's gone into the media. He's not getting that kind of money for doing whatever punditry jobs he's doing. So if you are in that position, particularly if you are fond of placing the odd bet,
the odd one.
So you might want to keep in a well-paid job as long as possible.
I know you're a big Liverpool fan.
Am I?
Yeah, absolutely. Already Liverpool shot 2 points clear of Man City. Is it the league effectively decided already? It's at least a 2-point gap anyway.
Yeah, it's like you would expect a City to win, but it surprised me Liverpool's start because, and I think you said you're talking later on about the demands on players, and their main guys have had no pre-season. The 3 guys up front have had no holiday, basically no pre-season, and they all look really sharp, which is very surprising. I'm also surprised they've won all their games with one of the worst goalkeepers in the Premier League.
Is he that bad?
Well, if you were picking your top 20 goalkeepers in the Premier League, would you have Adrian in there? They could probably have a couple of other backup goalkeepers in ahead of him. Like, is he better than Darren Randolph? I really doubt it. I really doubt if he is. Like, he's a reasonable shot stopper, but he's always got a brain fart in him, I think. And they've managed to get through that. If they can get through the international break, and that gives another 2 weeks to try and get Alisson back. So they're well placed. But like, this is a period when it's easy, relatively easy, because 1 game a week. Once you go back, you're into Champions League. It's 2 games a week, and that's when the pressure comes on. And also this FIFA World Club they've to factor in later on as well. So
What's going on with you?
Yep, we'll move from Roy Keane, I guess, to Mick McCarthy. The two intricately linked. But Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy says his players are fully aware of the importance of tomorrow night's Switzerland test. His side head into the Aviva Stadium clash top of Group D with 10 points from a possible 12. The Swiss are ranked 11th in the world, and McCarthy says they will be tough to break down.
Very well organised, very solid. Play 5 across the back. I don't know if they're going to be changing. I doubt that very much. They get into the shape very quickly. They work very hard. So breaking them down is not easy. And they're good as well with the ball. So, you know, we've got both sides of our game. We've got to be able to check and break them down, but also very disciplined and to be able to defend well as a team.
Everton star Seamus Coleman, meanwhile, says the Swiss are a great side from 1 right through to 11.
All around the pitch, they're a good team. They play that formation with the wing backs, but we've done our homework on them. I think at this level, international level, they're all good teams now, and Switzerland have always been known to being a good team. So they've got plenty of strengths, and obviously it's up to us to manage that and find where we can make them suffer as well.
Before you start our next little headline, I would just ask all our listeners to consider Roy Keane's face as you read out a story like this one.
Patrick Bamford is undecided on whether to declare for the Republic of Ireland, Johnny. The striker says he's currently focusing on his club career at Leeds and not closing the door on joining the Irish setup in the future. Bamford played, of course, for Ireland up to under 18 level before switching to England at under 21, so he hasn't yet made up his mind.
Kieran.
Like he's... don't let the door hit his arse on the way out. Like, who wants him? You know, like
he's not a bad player.
No, but if he's called up now, given the way he's hummed and hawed, it just makes an absolute joke of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously been a fair amount of debate around the rugby situation with Jan Klein coming in ahead of Devin Toner, and but like at least he wasn't mouthing off. He just went by they went by the rules that every country is using and picked a guy that's qualified. But this guy, like, what's he waiting for? Like, you either want to or you don't. Like,
he would have every chance.
It would be really embarrassing to pick him now.
He would have every chance of starting for Ireland on Thursday night if he'd come in, like, because of where he's at Leeds and that he's a good player. In fairness, to him.
And you look at there's 4. As far as I can see, there's 4 strikers there. None of them have scored a goal.
He's a better striker on league form than McGoldrick.
Yeah.
Put it that way. He's a good player. I just say you are or you aren't. Just get on with it.
At least with Klein. Klein says, you know, he makes the point. You know, I've lived in Ireland 3 years. I've got a Galway girlfriend. Dogs from Buttevant.
The dogs from Buttevant.
Dogs are from Buttevant, apparently. But Bamford's a bit of a bluffer. He's not quite the same level.
Did he actually mention his dogs?
He did.
Yeah.
In an interview, it was earlier this year. An interview he did, but he was talking about how Irish he is starting to feel.
Where's Buttevant? Buttevant's Cork.
Cork.
Buttevant would have been one of the parts of the race. The first steeplechase ever run was from, and I do actually welcome our listeners to correct me on this. Is Buttevant?
Is it Mitchelstown to Buttevant or something?
Buttevant to.
It wouldn't be.
I should know one of the Buttevant to maybe like Castlemart or somewhere in Cork.
Because I remember reading before, Cork is a load of firsts, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Like in world sport, for some reason, weirdly, it's quite a lot of them.
First time its dogs were ever mentioned in a nationality debate as well, I would imagine.
Do they have Cork accents?
The dogs, hopefully not. Actually,
I was told before sheep have accents.
Yeah.
No, I was told that they have different regional accents.
Pretty highbrow news round tonight.
It's in North County Cork, a medieval market town. Just so we get it correct.
It was the steeples of the church. It was from one steeple to the other, I suppose, in the old glory days of when Catholic dominance in this country. But that's why it's called a steeplechase.
Yeah.
I would welcome a text as to what the other town was. I'm pretty sure it was Buttevant. Should know this, obviously.
We'll move on. But the Irish women's team, Johnny, have a new manager. So the FAI have appointed top Dutch manager Vera Pauw as the new women's boss. She was in attendance for Ireland's opening Euro 2021 qualifier win over Montenegro. That was last night in Tallaght Stadium. The Irish won 2-0, of course. The 89 times capped Dutch international began her management career with Scotland in 1998 before she led the Netherlands to the European Championship semi-finals in 2009. Since then, she's managed the national teams in Russia and South Africa and has worked as an advisor to the Thailand FA. Pauw also coached the Houston Dash for a season in the US. She takes up the position with immediate effect, and she says she'll be hoping to continue the good work done by Colin Bell, who departed the role in June.
It's a team that is really halfway the ladder, and it's great to take over a team that is already so well structured by Colin and Tom, and they've done really a tremendous job in getting the team where they are now. So for me, it's really exciting because we are going to build on that. And the players, there's enough talent, there's massive talent in this team, and especially there's such a great will to make the next step. So I'm really looking forward to that.
There's quite an obsession with the Dutch and the FAI, isn't it? From Wim Koevermans to Ruud Doctor to this appointment. And I think this is a real kick in the teeth for Irish coaches, because if you look at their track record, I wouldn't say it's the cheapest appointment, given I presume she's to relocate here as well, and they pay part of I would think they would finance that. And there are a lot of qualified coaches and ambitious coaches here who are dying to get a shot at international level.
Tom O'Connor's one who, of course, was the...
Because I watched the game last night, and his body language afterwards, and there's mentioned that she was there, so he obviously knew he was out the door after last night. And I thought he looked quite downbeat after, and so obviously I know that could explain that.
But it has
and she said he's not going to be part of the setups.
It has Ruud Doctor written all over it. At the same time, we'll obviously speak to Louise Quinn about this. She's a hell of a pedigree as a coach, and if this...
Yes, but I'd like to know given the financial state of the FAI, you wouldn't mind. I'd like to know the package involved, because
good luck with that.
Yeah, because
we don't even know what the SSE or Tricia was into the League of Ireland.
No, but this is a time where the borrowing from UEFA. Based on future TV deals, etc., drawing down money early, and the state funding has been suspended, and they've made an appointment that looks like it might be a fair bit more expensive than a domestic one. So, she does have a track record, but it does seem an odd time given where the FAI are at the moment to make this kind of appointment. I think.
Fair. Yeah, it's a strange one. But tennis next. We'll move on. There will be no fairy tale Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal final at the US Open in New York. They've never met at Flushing Meadows. They've never played each other in the US Open in any round, which is pretty crazy.
That's a statistical complete anomaly of all anomalies.
Yeah, really. Obviously been on opposite sides of the draw and just have never progressed that far. But third seed Federer was knocked out of the tournament late last night by Grigor Dimitrov in a 5-set quarter-final thriller at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Federer was very disappointed, speaking after the match.
Just low, just disappointed it's over, because I did feel like I was actually playing really well after the couple of rocky starts, and missed opportunity to some extent, that you're in the lead, you can get through, you have 2 days off after, it was looking good, but got to take the losses, they're part of the game, and looking forward to family time and all that stuff, so life's all right.
Rafa Nadal plays Argentine Diego Schwartzman in the last 8 later tonight. In the women's draw, Serena Williams thrashed China's Wang Jiang 6-1, 6-love in just 44 minutes to make the last 4. Elsewhere in the men's draw, Gael Monfils takes on Matteo Berrettini in today's other men's quarter-final. The women's quarters, it's Bianca Andreescu against Elise Mertens, and Belinda Bencic of Switzerland has just beaten Croatia's Donna Vekic 7-6, 6-3. So some interesting action. We have GA ratifications as well. Banty's back, Kevin Walsh is gone. But we have had some others in the last 24 hours.
I want your view on the Banty one now. I'm not sure this is a progressive step.
That was great for the media. He talks to you.
Yeah, well, if you understand him. But I like Banty. Yeah, Banty is a likeable character. Is it a positive step for the Farney?
There's been a very mixed reaction within and outside the county, but
just got a no from our producer.
I would say the backroom team.
I think the backroom team is strong.
Is Peter Donnelly is confirmed?
Peter Donnelly is confirmed. Ray Boyne is the stats man.
Yeah, Peter Donnelly in particular. It's an odd one because he was the guru behind Cavan's strength and conditioning that won them all the Ulster Under 21 titles, then with the Tyrone Seniors, and he's been going to Ulster Rugby now as well. And people, I think there was an assumption made that Tyrone, he was leaving GA, he was just going to... because he was going to Ulster, but the fact that he's gone to Monaghan would make a lot of people in Tyrone be wondering, how the hell do we let this guy go? Because he has been credited with getting a lot... closer to the shape you need to compete with the likes of Dublin.
I think the Tyrone situation is absolutely laughable at this stage. I think if Mickey Hart doesn't have the wherewithal to say, and to actually have the selflessness to say somebody else is entitled to have a go at this stage, he's just not much of a man in my regard. Genuinely, I just think it's gone beyond the joke. Like, let somebody else have a go.
But it depends how you look at it, because he's won 2 Ulster titles in the last 4 years.
Irrelevant.
But he's taken the All-Ireland final. But if you bring in a manager and a new manager, is there any guarantee that the next 5 years they're going to win 2 Ulster titles and get to an All-Ireland final?
No, I just think they need a fresh voice. But
I agree on that. I do agree. But I can see how people make the argument, and also it's very, very difficult when you're in a county that made a major breakthrough, and not just winning one All-Ireland, but winning 3, to move on from the person who delivered that. But I think you eventually have to. Like, I think that was a problem with Mick O'Dwyer and Kerry, stayed on 2 or 3 years too long.
Yeah, and
Sean Boylan stayed on 3 or 4 years too long.
And the game's evolving, Kieran. We just want to mention a couple of texts briefly. We have another 3 minutes or so of the news. Steeplechase from Buttevant to Doneraile. Thanks to Trish for that. One of Keane's greatest performances was the Portugal game at home, also in the qualifiers for World Cup 2002.
That was as great as I think, because the Netherlands one is always mentioned, but I think Portugal was ahead of it now.
2 of the greatest midfielders of that era, Figo
him and Figo
Keane,
were immense.
both scored a vital 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
I do this. That was from Simon. I do like this one from Darren in Mayo. Keane, it was only a pre-season friendly. I saw him play for United against St. Pat's, and United lost possession in the final third. He tracked back to win the ball back. He was balling Gary Neville out of it, which he might again tonight, as he slid in to win the ball, cleaned out the man, and as he was getting up, he was balling another player over and pointing up the field to yet another to make a run to give him an out ball, which he duly dispatched, then turned around to ball Neville out of it some more as he ran backwards into position in a pre-season friendly. We'll never forget it, Darren in Mayo.
Classic.
There we go. I feel like I was there.
Yeah.
What else do we have, Shane?
We'll finish off a couple of ratifications to bring in. Rory Gallagher.
Ratifications.
It's that season, that time of year. But Rory Gallagher is the new Derry senior football boss. The former Fermanagh manager will be joined by former Oakleaf star Enda Muldoon as part of that backroom team. Kieran Mina, who was already part of the Derry senior footballers backroom team last year, is also part of that. Clare's County Board have officially ratified Jack O'Connor as their new senior football manager, of course. O'Connor led Kerry to 3 All-Ireland titles across 2 spells as manager. And in Offaly, both John Maughan and Michael Fennelly have been ratified as the Offaly senior team managers for the senior football and hurling teams for the coming year. Just to mention as well, Johnny, Troy Parrott, the Irish underage star, of course, he is included in Spurs' UEFA Champions League squad for this season, so great news for him. Last year's finalists have named their 23-man panel, and the 17-year-old Dublin striker has made the cut. Parrott, as Pochettino said this week, is Spurs' second choice striker at the moment, behind Harry Kane, with Spanish international Fernando Llorente now gone from the club.
Just a very quick one on the Rory Gallagher thing, because there's been a fair amount of opposition within Derry to the appointment.
Because of his style of football.
Yeah,
and so forth.
well, no, but more the kind of the process of it. Like he seemed to be parachuted in at the last minute. But I think this is rooted in. The John Horn, the GA president, going to push through this B championship. It's going to happen, and you have to, basically, because Derry are in Division 3, they have to get to an Ulster final to be part of the A championship. And he did get Fermanagh to an Ulster final. He did get Fermanagh from Division 3 to top 4 or 5 teams in Division 2. So I think this is a very pragmatic appointment, and thinking we could be in this B championship, we could be sidelined big time. It might be the prettiest football, but I think they're looking at the bottom line that way. So.
That's a good point, Kieran. Just our Vodafone rugby competition. It's time for our countdown competition in preparation for Japan. Vodafone has given us some amazing prizes to give away over the next few weeks. Tonight, you have the chance to bag 2 tickets to Ireland's final World Cup, a warm-up game against Wales on Saturday at the Viva Stadium. To win, just identify tonight's mystery voice, who was asked how he got on when he hit the links with the Golf Weekly team last week.
I hit 3 balls off the tee box, lost them all. I hit 3 balls off the tee box, lost them all.
That went well.
I know who it is.
It's all with thanks to the Vodafone team of us, everyone in.
Off the ball on News Talk.
The Motorsport Show, RDS Simmons Court Dublin. A must-attend event for all motorsport fans, experts, collectors and car enthusiasts. Featuring performance cars, rally cars, drifters, Formula 1 simulator, live runway and much